In my other video, I showed you how to set up a bridge, point-to-point mesh bridge between two Aruba access points. What I want to show here is what happens if you have a Cisco switch. So with HPE Aruba switches, we can tag VLAN 1. Cisco does not allow you to tag VLAN 1, and my client is trying to they actually have traffic on VLAN 1. So if it's not tagged, then it's going to have to be the native VLAN. So this is what I had to do to get traffic to pass across. I have a bunch of different VLANs here, but be able to get VLAN 1 traffic to pass across, I had to go into more wired, and on my port setup, set it to, make sure it's a trunk, but set it to native VLAN 1. Now, when I first brought these access points up, I wanted them to get an IP address in my VLAN 128. So we made the switch ports native VLAN 128 because when the access points were completely factory defaulted, we needed them to get an IP address in 128. Well, now we need them to be in VLAN 1, but be managed on VLAN 128, because if we don't have VLAN 1 as the native, the Ciscos are not going to pass it across, since we can't tag VLAN 1 with a Cisco. So what you're going to do is bring the access points up in VLAN 128 with the Cisco switches being set to VLAN 128 as the native VLAN. Then what you're going to do is, once they're up, you're going to set this to trunk, but you're going to change the native VLAN to 1 in here. And, that will then allow the VLAN 1 traffic untagged to go over to point-to-point. Okay, so that's the first thing you're going to have to do. And then the next thing you're going to have to do is go in on each access point. Now, this is 345 is my mesh portal. So this is the one connected to my regular LAN. So the difference is it's not Ethernet bridging. It's just setting the Ethernet bridging is set to disabled, which is by default. And that's the way you want it. But we need to go in here and we need to change the uplink management VLAN now to 128, because that is the network that these APs are going to be managed on a trunk. So, but this AP365, which is my portal, or excuse me, is my point, my mesh point, you have to configure that uplink Ethernet bridging enabled. And it also has to be changed to 128. So after you make these changes, it's going to tell you that you need to reboot the access points for them to work. So you'll go into maintenance, you'll hit reboot, and you'll reboot all both of your access points here. When they're rebooting, you need to change the switch ports that on the Cisco side, that they're a trunk, but you need to change the native VLAN from 128. You need to change it over to VLAN 1. So let me show you. I'll pull one of my switches up here that has a config on it here. And so if I do show run, now port 8 is where my mesh point is connected, but it will look the same on both sides, on both Cisco switches on both sides. So interface fast Ethernet 08, switch port mode trunk, and the native VLAN is 1. The command doesn't show up, but when the native VLAN is 1, it will look just like this. So that's what my interface looks like on here. Coincidentally, on my other side, I have an Aruba 3560 on my other side. I'll quick plug in and show you that. So here's my Cisco 3560. Same thing, I'll do a show run. Now this side is the side that's connected to my LAN. And if you look, port 8 is where my access point is connected. So switch port, trunk, encapsulation.1q, switch port mode trunk. Since it's the native VLAN is 1, nothing shows up in there. This is my uplink going back to the rest of my network. Gig 10 or 01. So if I do show trunk, if I do show int trunk, shows me all my VLANs that were going across. Now, originally when I brought my AP up, I lost connectivity to my mesh portal, my 345. And I went in and I could see that VLAN 128 that the access point was on was blocking. So I had to turn spanning tree off for that network. So watch out for that. If you see, do a show int trunk, and if you don't see the native VLAN that your access point is being managed on the trunk, then check for spanning tree. And you could do show spanning tree block ports. But it's not blocked right now because I fixed it, but before I could see that it was being blocked. So just want to make a quick video here, show you what you have to do if you're actually using VLAN 1, right? Some places don't use VLAN 1, but if you're trying to use VLAN 1 along with other VLANs with Cisco switches and these Aruba access points, that's what you need to do. Thanks.